أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أفمن يخلق كمن لا يخلق أفلا تذكرون صدق الله العظيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I have given reference to this many times. The whole point that there is a bifurcation, difference in what Allah made and what Allah did not make. Right? That's the point highlighted in this verse. So if you can memorize that. It's very simple. Anytime you see that you have come across something that Allah did not make, it did not exist in nature, you know that it's not useful, it's harmful. This is the key. Allah uses the word tazakkarun. You see, it's not saying aql. It's a matter of remembering. How do you not remember? You are yourself born. Can anybody else create you? It's very simple. Every word chosen in Quran is precise and exact. If you make a little change, it loses meaning. It's optimized. And it's you. Everybody is born. So all you have to do is remember. That's it. Just about yourself. Who can say that I was not born? So I have no idea. You yourself were born. Another thing that follows from it is very important. Allah creates everything, including laws. No law is real if it is not created by Allah. That's the deductive logic. That's why first day I said, deductive logic tells you Newton's law is false, Einstein's theory is false, everything is false because Allah did not create them. But inductive logic also says, if you use your aql, they are false because they do not exist. This is crazy ideas. So both ways, there is no way for you to avoid the conclusion that everything that we see as a basis of engineering is false. Any aql you have, you can easily conclude, but we don't. We do not use aql. And 8:22 tells us, if you do not use aql, what happens to you? You become the lowliest of creature. In Surah 10, Allah said, Radalnahum, right? The push to the lowest level. Khalifa of Allah, the best creation becomes the lowliest. What is the difference? Using aql. It also follows that Allah does everything. I have been remembering these verses and forgetting. I had to search and I had to talk to sheikhs, including my son who is Hafiz of Quran. What are the verses? They are the very important two verses, 2179 and 3796. That tells you Allah does everything. You're doing nothing. We have ability to do nothing. There's a building, Allah did it. That's why we say Alhamdulillah for everything, isn't it? Even if we are sick, even if I'm failing, Allah did it because it's part of Qadr. But Allah explicitly tells us, in Surah Safat 3796, Allah created you and whatever you do. So Allah created whatever your action. That's why yafal, the action, is not amal. Amal has niya in it. That's why you get credit for it. Yafal, doing things, you get no credit because it's part of Qadr. So if you're rich, You cannot say, oh, mashallah, I worked hard for it. No, you didn't. No amount of work can make you rich. Because Allah gave you. Mashallah, I have nuclear bomb so I can defend my country. No, you can't. You can have the most powerful bomb, you cannot do nothing. Unless Allah gives you. So we should not strive for having more toxic weapons, better defense system. We should have, only thing we should seek is Allah's Rahmah. So Allah looks at us and says, we're asking you, give it to us, defend us.
One can mention like in today's problems, if the Ummah, if there was unity in the Ummah, without having any type of weapons. So I don't think that...
No, it's not. You see, to begin with, this is the sequence of thought. Unity of Ummah, does it do anything? If all Ummah get together today, does anything change? Ummah has the most wealth, isn't it true? And in the West we say money buys everything. Is it true?
No.
I give a simple example. If I say July is a hot month, is it true?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Who agrees? Is July is a hot month? It's true. So first class we talked about true and false, right? Is it true?
it is
How do you know?
like,
You experience that every July is hot,
yeah.
right? But how about South Africa? Is July true? How hot for them? No, July is cold month. So always, if you face a question, is it true? You have to say, did Quran say it? Did Hadith say it? Quran never says month of July is hot. Right? It's very simple. Because it's not true.
Yes.
It's true for you, but that doesn't make it true. When you say it is true, same way for everything. You're talking about your own experience. And Allah said, what did Allah say? Do not talk unless you're certain. 1736. Do not proceed unless you have full knowledge.
Full knowledge, yeah.
So everything points to the fact that in sequence, we have to recognize Allah does everything. And we have to recognize Allah is the only one who can save us.
So we apply this criteria for each and everything.
For everything.
If you said, I said that if the Ummah was united,
That's right.
Then-
Is it true?
yeah, then I should cross-check it with
That's
Hadith and Quran.
That's
That
right.
Is there something that if you are united, you will be successful?
That's right.
Ah.
To begin with, what is Ummah? And then we have Hadith that says 72 out of 73 will be wrong-headed. So, in fact, there is an opposite verse, Hadith, that says Ummah will never be united. So when you are saying, if Ummah united, it's like Newton's law, right? If it is at steady state, it will remain at a steady state. But boom, but there is nothing steady state. There is no static. Always same logic. And that's why this logic, this is true logic. Why? Because this comes from Shahada, the only first true premise. So, you have a problem. Who gave you that? Who created the problem?
Allah.
Allah. Isn't it true? It's part of test. So what do you go to solve the problem? Go to Allah. Did He give me the problem? Then solve it for me.
وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ
That's right. Allah did that. And by the way, that verse is coming up. How beautiful. This is what I call prophetic. Beautiful. And I wrote it down. You'll see it.
Yes.
Right? How is it possible? Think about it. Everything that comes to you, including death, fear of disease, fear of defeat, money, problem, every problem is given by Allah. He created it. just like he created all the laws. So what do you say to that?
Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un.
Yes. What does it mean? Hey, everything came from him,
Mhm.
and everything is going back to Allah. We are only observer. We should not interfere. We should minimize our footprint. And that process is called zero waste. You don't get involved into facade. If you do, this is the problem. If you do get involved in facade, if you introduce facade, if you give fatwa to break that cycle, if you introduce non-zero waste technology, you are responsible until day of judgment. Both of them say that. That's another important verse, 16:25 and 29:13. You carry the burden all the way through, but individual burden doesn't get reduced. It's very severe. There's a hadith that says, on the other hand, always hadith compliments, right? If you undo a damage, if you break a bad cycle, you get credit until the day of judgment. And that's what you're trying to do. Last 400 years or 350 years, they have broken the cycle. Everything became unsustainable. And we're trying to break that, and inshallah, we'll get the reward until the day of judgment. That's all it is. So when you say Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un, we're actually acknowledging that we are just a caretaker. We just, somebody dies, right? We just carefully place him to Allah. Meaning what? How Allah told us to do, bury them in the ground. Isn't that what you do? One idiot from South Africa told me, his name is Omar, a Muslim guy. Who told you that it's not allowed to donate organs, death? Think the audacity. So when did it start? You always find these cultural Muslims are the most arrogant. He sees on my Facebook, he sees I'm the most published engineer. And he also knows from my post that I'm very Islamic. And he challenges my what? Only true word. That you should not molest a dead. So who told you? When you're alive, you cannot even take out a hair from an unrecognized place. A woman has hair, if she plucks out eyebrow, we go to hell. Isn't it true? And you are talking about death and cutting the organ out before even is dead. That was the message. And he questioning me. You see, this is the Karun syndrome. Only person he attacks is me. All these Christians are talking nonsense. He has no problem. Only me he attacks. On open Facebook. And where is he from? South Africa. South Africa is the country that for centuries oppressed the non-white people. Apartheid, you know that.
Yeah.
Now he's trying to be white. Because that way he said, I am able to cross this guy, so I look good. So this is the problem.
Is among the black or the white?
No, it's brown. South Africa has all kind of Muslim from Southeast Asia. So, to the point that was discussed last class, what is the most important research in the West? Do you know? Which research they spend the most money? Do you know? Medical. Isn't that something we hear that the professor, how can you do something? It will take many years. So I'm taking the extreme example. People say it's war. No, it's not war. Even for war, the technology they develop is for medical research. We talked about that before. Radio, to X-ray, to CT scan, to all aspartame. It's from war, but it's applied in medicine. DDT. Every technology that even war people develop end up with medical application. All this sophisticated equipment. Ultrasound, you name it. CT scan, MRI, all medical. So the most important research, the most money-making research is medical. And I ask you, very simple question, we talked about from the beginning. What is the easiest replacement you can make to all medical research? Quran says honey, Hadith says black seed. If you have any yaqeen, he said, forget everything. We don't need to do any research. Tomorrow we start with honey and black seed. Is it not done? So most important research, most money-making research can be replaced tomorrow with 50 cents. Now come back to other application we discussed last week, that how can you replace their drone? Look, their drone is created with much less money than their medical research. Their medical research is replaced with honey and black seed. So find the honey and black seed for your drone. That's all. Have the confidence. If medical research can be replaced with just two verses, one verse and a hadith, there has to be another verse and hadith that replace all the medical, all the war research, nuclear, everything. So that's why I just sat down. This came from last night. Right now, we know diodes, we know semiconductors. Isn't it true?
Yeah.
They are the best research they have done. We know radio signal, we know X-ray, we know infrared, we know UV, we know lithium, we know laser. All of them can be replaced tomorrow. With what? The natural version of it. Lithium, Afghanistan is sitting on the largest reserve of lithium. Tomorrow we process, just chalk down, Zahir have been involved in that. Chalk down how to process this naturally. You have the technology that beats the whole world. The whole world does not have the technology. That's how easy it is. We know that laser has ruby. We know that laser has always operated with electricity. We just changed that. Because what is electricity? Energy source. We just changed the energy source. We start the experiment tomorrow. Today Saladin was saying that the engine research, engine with crude oil, it seems to be very strange. Yet, the first guy who did the engine, diesel engine, right? Diesel guy is that guy. How did he do his first experiment? Do you know? With vegetable oil, which is a lot more difficult than crude oil. But that's the first research. Now you tell anybody, so, Doctor, what are you saying? Americans, if it was true, Americans could have done it a long time ago. So I'm not going to risk it. That's how we have lost faith. We have no iman. We have no confidence. Confidence comes from iman, isn't it? If you think Allah is your backer, you're very confident. If you think shaitan is your backer, you're trying to go to sujood to shaitan non-stop. And still you're not sure, because shaitan never keeps his promise. So you have sold your soul to shaitan, and that's why you're losing dunya and akhirah both. But it's very simple.
One day it was discussed that when you have that type of that type of thinking that how I can do this or it's not possible. You told us that you can ask yourself that where this is coming from, that I can't do it.
Yes. Source of your weakness.
The source of our weakness, that
And
I can't do this, it is impossible.
Yes.
So
It came
who
from,
is telling this to you?
it's Shaitan, of course. And that's how we should self-analyze all the time. Why am I behaving this way? Why is it bothering me? And you will always find out there's a whisper of Shaitan. If you can detect that, you have it made. That's why Prophet Muhammad himself would say Astaghfirullah, what, 70 times. 70 times in one sitting. Non-stop. And how many times we have even said sincere Astaghfirullah? We just Astaghfirullah, Astaghfirullah, we're just counting without meaning. After sitting down. But Astaghfirullah before you even talk, before you say something and you are not sure. So, the logic is very simple. You take any of this, I thought about the X-ray. X-ray is very useful, isn't it? To see what it is. I'm not arguing that you should, personally, I think there is no need for X-ray. All the diseases you talk about, we can detect from the tongue. We have done that for many of you. But if you want to know what is inside something, it's very useful too.
That's especially used in bone fracture.
Yeah, for bone they do, but X-ray for detection of metals inside something buried.
Before operation, they know about the fracture type.
Right, that's what they do, right? But wouldn't that be wonderful? If that X-ray was natural, it would not be harmful. The operator, have you seen that? Operator has to go out of the room because they are doing X-ray. MRI the same way. So wouldn't that be wonderful if we had natural X-ray? We know sun has X-ray. We know sun has all the signal, all the waves. So same with UV. Do you know UV, what is its biggest use? It kills the bacteria, right? If you use the sunlight, sun also has the UV. That UV will also kill bacteria. We have actually done that experiment when I was in United Arab Emirates. We showed that the sunlight kills bacteria. It's just, logically we know it's a fact, but we quantified it. Just like we showed clay is the best cleaner. My master student from Pakistan, of all places, did her master to show clay is a great cleaner. But there's hadith. But indirect logic is like that. You have to find and prove, and she has paid a lot of money, $18,000 to prove that clay is a good cleaner. Right? So, comes back to finding natural alchemy for everything. And you find out that it's not very difficult at all. Most difficult is to understand the process. What is the problem? First day I said, the most difficult is identification of the problem. I mentioned in the first class, I think you remember, that if I ask anybody, say, no doctor, we have no problem. Because problem is trouble. Your boss will get angry with that. What? You have problem? You are sharing with the doctor. He just came from Canada. You are telling him all that problems, and you are supposed to be solving problems. What is this nonsense? So you are afraid. Say there is no problem. But yet, identification of the problem is the biggest problem. Once you do that, it comes to you. There, we're talking about extremely important how to characterize different materials. So we have in question here honey, sugar, saccharin, and aspartame. So somebody told you, brother, how would you characterize them? Meaning, which one is best, which one is the worst? So anytime you have to choose, you have to have a criterion, isn't it? That criteria is what in Arabic? Furqan. Furqan is the one that bifurcates. This is good, bad. So how to do that? You have these 4 chemicals given to you. You see, that's why the Furqan has to be Quran and Hadith. Right? We don't call it. Did you see that? Did I use the word Furqan? No, what did I call it? Natural ranking. Last one. What is natural? Only halal. Right? In scientific, in Arabic term, it's halal. Halal ranking means real ranking. Real ranking, we know honey is the best, number 1. Sugar is next. Second is third. Aspartame is the worst. Keep this ranking in mind. 1 means first, 4 means worst. People have given you many ranking systems. Shaitan has many criteria, and that's how they overwhelm you. There are many criteria. First criteria, biodegradability. They said, if it biodegrades, have you not heard that? If you biodegrades, mashallah, it's very good. No problem with it. That's why they came up with biodegradable polymer, plastic, right? You know what is most biodegradable in this? Saccharin. Sugar next. Aspartame is not biodegradable at all, meaning no bacteria can eat it. Right? So according to them, according to this criteria, aspartame is the best. They said, look, your honey did not even come close. Honey does not biodegrade, by the way, but there is one type of bacteria that actually likes honey. Did you know that? Honey kills all bacteria. That's why it's not biodegradable at all, except for one. And that's the one they use to make wine with honey.
Amylase enzyme.
Do you know the name?
Amylase enzyme.
Yes, there you go. You see? Brilliant guy.
Amylase.
Did you understand the logic? Aspartame, no bacteria likes it. They're not crazy. Because it's a neurotoxin. Honey, one bacteria likes it. And that's what they use for making wine. So, biodegradability, honey will come for next, second. The worst one, aspartame will become number 1. This is how crazy it is. In terms of efficiency, which is sweetness, honey will come last. You see that? Honey is 4. Honey is not sweet. Aspartame is 200 times sweeter than sugar. So in terms of efficiency, brother, what are you talking about? Look, little bit of aspartame is sweet, good enough. And you're telling me honey, look at honey. It's very expensive and it needs whole lot of it. Efficiency cannot win. You cannot win with any criterion other than the criterion of Allah. So it doesn't matter how it looks like. Profit margin, the worst profit you can make is honey. Very little profit. You are getting bee stings and it's a very difficult job. So you don't make money. You make most money with aspartame. And that's why all the people, all the businesses, literally all of them are trying to get certification from United States because they will make more profit. They know how to make money. Didn't you hear that? They're dying to be certified by US because then you can make money by following Shaitan's criteria. So in money making, honey is the worst. That's the money God's criteria. And that's what has driven, we talked about in economics, that's what has driven economics.
So,
Heating, yes,
we talked about in the previous slide. We talked about hiding problems
yes.
and problems identification. So if we can ask a question that how can we identify questions? I mean, what step we take to identify a problem?
Yes, first thing, remember in the presentation of Ibrahim we talked about last week, first thing we should ask, anytime you have research assignment, which problem are you trying to solve? That's the whole idea. What is the problem? Why am I doing this research? That's it. So if there is no problem, there is no question. Why do I even, Prophet said, asking question is cured to ignorance.
Ignorance.
But what question? There is no question, there is no problem, there is no question. So what happened? When Prophet said, ask me question, remember the hadith? It's extremely profound. Ask me question. Right? They could not come up with. Because they did not have a problem. So what do? They come up with dogma, Bani Israel question. One of them asked, where am I in after judgment? And what happened? What was the answer? Do you remember? Hell. Because that's a dogma question. Why do you want to know? You should say, a real question would be, Prophet, how can I go to heaven? That would be a real question. What this is typical of Munafiq. They ask dogma question. They ask Bani Israel question. So sure enough, he want to help. Another one, what is my father's name? What do you want to know? You know he knows. What if he told you the one you know is not your father? Why? Why are you asking? Which problem do you want to solve? But we have been trained. And that's why to catch Munafiq, that was the sitting. Sahaba said, Subhanallah, if Omar did not end it, it will flash out all the Munafiqs. Munafiqs cannot resist. They always ask dogma questions, and that's how we can tell. Do you remember that Hadith discussion? Extremely important. I bet you never had that discussion before. I bet many people did not even hear about the Hadith. I heard that maybe 15 years ago, and I forgot the reference, so I talked to the Sheikh who told the Hadith first time, and Sheikh happens to be teaching in US, and I contacted him. He was not seeing my message. I contacted John, and he sent him a message, and he replied with the Hadith. That's how I recovered the Hadith. But if you do not have a problem, you do not have research. So somebody gives you research project, first thing you ask, which problem are you trying to solve?
Research question.
What is the research question? So your research question has to deal with the problem. It's not an exercise. And I tell you, replicating what Chinese are doing is not research. It's not a problem anymore. Buy it. You can buy tomorrow. Right? If you don't have money, sell your lithium. They'll be happy to give you the drone for lithium. And we have done. This country has sold 90% of its, 90%, yes, 90% of its petroleum resources to China for 10% profit. Unprecedented. The ministry is gone, but the legacy.
The contraction is there.
Contract is there, and that's what we call it, that until the day of judgment, he will be held accountable. Because you have to use our code. You just have to Google. Is there any contract in the world that gives 90% of right to the investor? It doesn't exist.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yes.
It even doesn't need expertise.
That's right. Nothing. Anyway, so you see, the lesson here, when it comes to heating value, is the same. You can never win. Nothing will show you honey's best, even though Quran says it. Without Quran and Hadith. That's the only criterion we have to look for. So this is how we characterize. So when I say, to say when something is good or bad, something is acceptable or not, the criterion has to be Quran and Hadith. Without that, you have nothing. Says, sorry sir, I cannot tell you which one is better because I do not have understanding of Quran. I cannot use bad guys criteria to show the truth. It doesn't work. So this is in my Zero Waste book, and this is very important paper. So next one is goes to solar, gas, electrical, electromagnetic, nuclear. Okay? So here the criteria, no biodegradability, so we do not consider it. Efficiency, you see, we know the best one is solar, but in efficiency, it reverses sequence. Profit margin, of course, nuclear is the best, most profitable. And that's how Al Gore, the guy who was vice president who concocted this global warming crisis, he was selling nuclear energy to Saudi Arabia of all places, and they bought it. Right? So, profit margin or heating value, again, completely crazy. Solar, which is Allah's energy, and the only one, that's why Ashram is a feminine, right? This is the only energy source that would not be proven number one by any criteria that Shaitan is giving you. Only Allah's criteria will give you. And that's the one we talk about, sustainability criteria. Remember we talked about it, sustainability. None of them, other ones is sustainable. And they become progressively worse. We talk about HSSA degradation. In terms of clay, for cleaning, clay or wood ash, olive oil and wood ash, vegetable oil and sodium hydroxide. This is like soap. It's the same. Nothing works. Nothing will show clay is the best. Nothing will show wood is the best. So the criteria that we are facing, they reverse our decision. That's why we said preposterous. Remember, completely turned upside down. What does the word Dajjal mean? Dajjal means exactly that, turned upside down. It continues. I'll make this slides available. We're talking about mineral oil, synthetic oil, 100% synthetic, soap-free soap, ammonia, freon, non-freon, methanol, glycol. These are for air conditioning. For all of them, you have the same crisis. The criteria that we are given reverses. They reverse the selection process. Turns it upside down. So this one continues, and we see the about light, sunlight, truly available, and then candle light, vegetable oil light, gas light, incandescent light, fluorescent light, like this kind. They become progressively worse, but they are shown with any other criteria as superior. This is white, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Sunlight is also white.
Yes.
Isn't it true? That one is always beneficial, this is always harmful.
Okay.
And why is that? Direct logic, remember? Allah created that one, Shaitan created this one.
Yes.
But that ranking has to come from Quran. And we do not see that unless we use Quran as the scientific standard. Here I show, you have heard this argument many times, that what can you do now? We have so many people, and the food has to be provided. So we introduce a new characterization tool. Take this. Case A, B, C, D, E, F, G progressively become worse. For instance, you have yield with organic fertilizer without any fertilizer. Then you have the organic fertilizer. Then you have chemical fertilizer. It goes on. Then you have GMO. And GMO looks to be, remember the criteria, GMO looks to be the best. It's the biggest production. But you realize that there's a catch. Because that's terrible. It's not even food. So we are comparing something that is not food with something that is food. And then you are saying, I have a lot of no food. That's why I said, with your baby, if I give you 5 American children, would you accept that? Would you say, mashallah, I have 5, so I'm going to take 5? Would you accept?
No.
It's not crazy. Even if your child is sick, I said, I don't care. I don't want, because they are not mine. Right? Isn't that logic? Same way, we have one fruit, which is real. And real is beneficial. And you have 5 artificial fruits. And you are saying, oh, how can you deny the 5 fruits? Because you have a lot of people. The logic, you realize that Dalala, how God set in, you should not even think about it. He said, they are not real, man. They have pesticides, they have all kinds of toxic things in it. I don't care how much. Even if I starve, I'm going to have my own fruit. That mindset does not happen unless you have removed Dalala from your brain. The shaitan affected the brain first. So we introduced this one and you showed that, look, in terms of yield, if you do not distinguish between good and bad, the yield will always be greatest with the worst one. So what did you do? We introduced a sustainability criteria. Direct function. Do you know what that one is? 0 or minus 1. 1 or minus 1. So if it's not sustainable, you get a 1, minus 1. So what happens then? Right away, your volume yield becomes negative. You see the point? So one, your own child, other one is not your own child, so it's minus 1. Right? So somebody say, I want to replace. So how can I replace? This is 1 and this is minus 1. Even if it is 0, it's a sick child. Even dying child, it's greater than this guy. And somebody says, 2 children, you say, that's minus 2. Are you crazy? I have plus 1 and you want me to compare with minus 2, forgetting that those are not real. So if you use that criteria, you bring back and you find out that all the scheme that was introduced to show that artificial, unsustainable, toxic pesticide and GMO, they are actually negative. Your yield did not go up, your yield went down. Practical example, this is deductive logic, right? Organic food is 5 times more expensive. Can you have a case where you can show that organic food has gone up? The non-organic food has 5 times more yield. It never happens. Yet the price, the original price, is 5 times more now. So what have you done? You have done nothing. You are not buying good food, 5 times more price.
So Sir, one point one can make that so we should be satisfied with less amount of organic food
Yes.
than abundant amount of. So that's the solution we have. So obviously, if we don't use these artificial fertilizers,
Yeah.
so then the amount of harvest.
Would be less, but
Will be
it's
less.
not always true. This is the problem. Because you'll come up with organic fertilizer. That's why that was put there. Organic fertilizer often will give you same yield. So why is the price high? Because they make more price. Whole organic business again controlled by Israel. Because they make most profit there. So buying organic from US is not the solution. Solution is you grow your own organic. Because you have the technology. And you find out they are most expensive for other guys. They are most profit giving and most beneficial. So we do not forget that we have learned something. We have knowledge from Quran and Hadith, all the process. Organic has thousands of years of history. You know, some of them we haven't forgotten, like how to make mummies, how Ad Samud were cutting rocks, and Prophet Sulaiman's teleporting. We're forgetting those. But bring them back. That's what the research is. And you find out you make more yield, but real. There's no comparison. So once you have that criterion, everything looks fine. But what have we done with this? This is again in the Zero Waste book. We have unraveled, we have exposed Shaitanic scheme.
So we even don't close the air.
We don't what?
We don't close the harvest, it doesn't decrease, so
Yes,
there is a
we don't
solution.
lose anything. It's just like, in a while, logically, amount of fruit, amount of crop, the amount of food you'll eat is part of others. So we should not be even worried about that. Allah will provide. How many times you have said that having children